Social media in the classroom. First of all, we have to think about what is social media? Well, it's websites and applications that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. They are computer-mediated technologies that allow the creation and sharing of information, interests, and other expression through virtual communities and networks. What are some common features of social media platforms? Well, social media are interactive, it's user-generated, there's service-specific profiles, and they facilitate the development of online social networks. The most commonly recognized platforms are Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, and Snapchat. This diagram shows, however, there are thousands of more options available to those who want it. Why use social media in the classroom? It's a great question. Using social media allows students to share, tweet, follow, and learn. Everyone with technology can interact with anyone in the world. Facebook, Twitter, it links us to experts, and students can learn more and more rather than just what's on the walls around them. Although we as teachers often worry about the language or slang our students are using on social media, an excellent TED Talk by British researcher Harry Dyer helps us look at this a little bit differently.
Has never just been an either or case. We don't have to understand it as something that's completely alien to us and as something that's broken. There's always been moral and social panics in terms of language and communication. The printing press was seen as ruining communication. Before the smartphone, the landline phone was seen as ruining communication. Pluto decried writing as ruining communication. Video games, Dungeons and Dragons, comic books, and yet language survives and thrives and evolves. Indeed, youth today are incredibly skilled with language and playful with language. With memes and GIFs and emojis, they created in essence a sort of modern Cockney rhyming slang, a code that's shaped and shared for their own social needs, their own social environments, and importantly, the specific social sites in which they're acting and interacting. They created a way of saying, I see you, I understand you, I get that reference, I like the things that you like. They're playing with language, they're testing it, they're pulling at it, they're seeing what it can do and what it can't do. They're testing everything that they can do with language. And that's a great thing. And of course, there are positives and negatives to every medium of communication. There are things that we can do face to face that we can't via a phone, a landline phone, a text, a tweet, a letter, semaphore, smoke signals, and vice versa. This is best summed up by Marshall McLuhan, who famously said, "The medium is the message," a phrase that captures an entire school of study that focuses upon how different mediums of communication emphasize certain communicative traits and minimize others. But it's important to remember with youth and online language that it's not a case of either or. Youth don't forget offline communicative norms and values when they learn online communicative norms and values. Youth don't forget how to communicate effectively in offline spaces when they learn how to communicate effectively in online spaces. We all exist in multiple realms at any given time. My research and the research of many other people has shown that youth, and indeed all of us, both online and offline, have the ability to understand how to interact effectively within any given space.
Dr. William J. Ward goes on to explain why we need to incorporate social media into our classrooms.
You were doing, and we're very excited at the student side. And so when we started to try to talk about that in school, it's like, well, no, you can't do that in class. You can't bring your phones to class. You can't bring your laptops. You can't have your tablet out. You have to turn the technology off and listen, right? So the measure of how successful you were was, right, in the traditional model is are you looking at me? That's the only way I can tell. If you're looking at your phone, you're obviously playing Angry Birds or Facebooking your friends, and that was sort of the challenge. So, one of the things I want to do is make a little bit of a case is, we kind of know this, right? Here in this room, you guys are early adopters and innovators yourselves. We don't get our news like this anymore. A recent Pew Internet Life study from this year, 70% of people on Facebook are getting their news links from their friends and families not journalists and newspapers directly, right? So social media is a way that content's being delivered. Why aren't we incorporating it in our class?
Well, how do we look at social media in educational contexts? Well, a lot of research has gone into the matter. Use of social media as learning tools could possibly connect informal learning to the formal learning environment, which can include members outside the class and connect learners with communities and experts. More media forms influence today's youth than ever before. We can't ignore this fact in the classroom. Digital natives are individuals who are born into a time where digital technology is commonplace. They learn differently from previous generations. Education needs to change and reflect this. In order to meet the demands of digital natives, instructors must change their current teaching strategies. Social media is beneficial to student learning. Learning is moving away from the instructor towards the student.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the Great Depression, passed the tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered.
Unlike the example in the previous section, we need our classrooms to be engaging, students doing, trying, figuring things out on their own or working together, helping one another in a collaborative effort to solve any sort of problem. Can be traced back to the theory of social constructivism by Lev Vygotsky. The basic principle is that students can learn most effectively by engaging in carefully selected, collaborative problem-solving activities under the close supervision of instructors. A new theory has been developed called connectivism, which is where social learning is integrated with social media technologies. According to Anderson and Drawn in 2011, the responsibility of a teacher is to not just deliver, generate, or assign content, but is to help learners build learning paths and make connections with existing and new knowledge resources. Social learning theories, especially connectivism, provide insight on the roles of educators in this social networked environment. Social media use in the post-secondary classroom has been widely researched, and Twitter was found to not only increase college students' engagement and improve grades, but it increased interaction with peers and instructors for deeper, more interpersonal connections. Grounded in social constructivism, Perry, Dalton, and Edwards' study revealed that by integrating photography and digital storytelling methods with in-depth course reflections, instructors increased interest, engagement, personal meaning, and creativeness. The National Survey of Student Engagement in 2014 found instructors who use social media as a tool for collaborative and reflective work saw positive student engagement. Isn't it time we start engaging our primary and secondary students the same way? Let's look at how we may effectively do this.
Well, the first thing I would say is you don't have to be an expert. I'm not an expert in social media, and I've been able to use it with my students in really good ways. In many cases, your students are going to be a lot more knowledgeable than you are, and that's great, because what you can do is, I would say, start with what your students know and what they're using. Find out what social media they use, ask them how they use it. You can use that as a springboard for conversation in class, and your students can share ideas, and they're going to be teaching you as well. I think one thing that social media is really great for is that it fosters collaboration. And by having these kinds of discussions in class and working together to explore social media, you're actually taking advantage of one of the really great things about social media.
Technology has changed how we communicate, particularly with mobile devices and social media. It is important students know how to utilize these tools in school and as citizens of the digital world. The growing popularity of social media sites like Twitter adds a new way to engage students in the classroom. In today's lesson, students in Mr. Cassidy's class are using Twitter in a number of different capacities. Students use different forms of social media for discussion questions. The teacher will post a question with a unique hashtag, and students can respond directly to him and to each other. This has greatly increased class participation and helps students who might hesitate in class find their voice. For example, during an in-class debate, all students were able to participate by tweeting questions and comments. This simulated a real live debate and gave students a unique experience. Twitter is also used to enhance assignments. Students post responses to in-class readings and discuss aspects of the novel without disrupting other students' reading time. Outside of class, Twitter is used to keep students updated on tests and due dates, and it allows students to continue discussing topics from class. As you can see, the use of social media and technology in the classroom has increased student participation and enhanced learning.
Teacher Katie Page uses social media. Ms. Page found using social media has allowed true collaboration and growth for all parties involved. Students come away with a deeper understanding of data analysis, communicating scientific information, and effectively critiquing their peers. She also quotes the ISTE standards that state we should be fostering student use of digital media in our classrooms. Using social media in the elementary classroom. Some educators have shied away from this because of the legalities, but there are common sense solutions. You can create class blogs, class Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts. Students never need to be vulnerable. No laws ever need to be broken.
I think it's really important to use digital tools whenever possible to teach kids, because digital is where the kids are at now. The children that I'm teaching have grown up with the internet their entire lives. Their parents have iPhones, they have iPads, they have digital tools, they use those tools at home. So for me to ask them to come to school and power down would make school seem like a different place that was not in touch with what their real lives were like. My 6 and 7-year-old students each have their own blog, which is a digital portfolio of their work from the first of school to the end of school. And at the beginning, the 6-year-olds can't write anything that's readable, so I just put in brackets at the end what they wanted it to say. And through the year, you can see their writing improving and what things they're getting better at all the time. They also use other tools to show learning besides just the written word. They might take pictures of things that they've done. They might make a video of things they've done. They might make a voice recording. They use a bunch of different tools that they then put on their blogs so that the blog reflects their learning from their entire school year with me. One of the values of having a digital record is that it's always there, that digital record stays online. And so just last week, I had one of my students look at what she had done in grade 1 when she recorded her reading. We listened to it, and then we listened to her read now, and then saw the tremendous improvement that there had been. She felt like she was on cloud 9, and the other students were all very excited because it showed them that they had improved as well, and that they were improving, and what would theirs be like in the next year. We also use Twitter in our classroom as mainly a reading and writing tool, but also to connect with other classrooms and find out what's the same in the other classrooms, what are they doing that's different than us, how can they help us to learn. We've tweeted back and forth with classes about math questions and about questions we had about places that they live. And in early 2011, there was massive flooding in Brisbane, Australia. And my students came to school to me worried because they had heard about this flooding from their parents, and they were really concerned because we had blogging buddies who were in Brisbane, and they were worried that they might not be well. we tweeted to their class and said, "We hope you're all safe. We heard about the floods." And the teacher tweeted back and said, "Yes, we're all safe." And she also sent us some video and sent us a link to a map where the flooding was and that they were safe because they weren't in that area. Kids, when they're connecting with others, they're learning an empathy that they wouldn't otherwise have because they would have no connection. I think that their worldview is different than children who are in a class that doesn't connect. And I think that that's important. I think our world is becoming more and more connected. And when these children are grown, it's very likely that they will live and work in an environment where they're constantly communicating with people who are in other countries. And so this is a start to showing them how that can be done in a safe way and in an effective way.
Allison Kostyuk is a grade 3 teacher and fellow Met classmate who uses social media in her classroom. They've tweeted Commander Chris Hadfield, Canadian Olympic athletes, as well as took part in the BC Green Games, which they won, all while documenting it on Twitter and social media. So why not give social media a try? Skype with authors, tweet the expert, Facebook your daily life. Explore, share your ideas, be innovative.